Could students with smartphones, long the bane of educators everywhere, actually be ushering in a new wave of educational creativity by doing their schoolwork on their mobile phones? Joining us now to discuss is WSJ's Charlie Wells in London and Heidi Bernasconi, a teacher at Clarkstown High School North in New City, New York. Welcome to both of you. Charlie, let me start with you. Is the teaching profession, apart from our valued guest here, largely aware of the creative ways students are using these devices?
Quite frankly, no. This is a really rapidly evolving space, and students are finding some very creative ways to use their phones that teachers simply aren't recognizing yet. I spoke with a lecturer at Harvard Business School who's looking into sort of how students use digital devices, and he found that, time and again, teachers are just not prepared for this. I think the conversation right now tends to be about phones as a distraction, or maybe phones as devices that students can read on or consume on, but the new wave really seems to be students using their phones to create things.
And Heidi, you are riding this new wave. You are actually encouraging your students to use their phones. So I guess first off, your school doesn't have a no phone policy then.
That's kind of tricky.
Tricky.
Yeah, our policy is definitely need to be rewritten as more students use their phones. We do have BYOD, which means you can bring your own device to school.
Oh, you do?
And some teachers, it's up to the teacher's discretion on whether they want cell phones to be used in their classroom or not.
So give us some examples of what your students have done on their mobile phones.
Well, it's just, you have to understand that that is a computer in their pocket, and so it's their world. Everything, they are more comfortable reading on their phone than they are a computer screen, and it's something that our generation is not used to. They do everything. Google has every app available of all their Drive, Classroom on their phone, so they can literally do anything you want them to do in class on their phone.
Presentations.
They can make presentations, they can collaborate on Google Docs with each other. Google Classroom came out in 2014, which is like an online platform for a classroom, which I use every day, and I can just shoot them websites. Hey guys, here's the article we're gonna read in class. They can get it on their phone.
So interesting. And Charlie, in your reporting, you came up with some specific examples of reports and what have you that students have done. Can you tell us about some of those?
I've been blown away. A 12-year-old and his friend got together and made a presentation about skin. They turned it in with a picture and a lot of facts on, it looks like a slideshow that you would make on a computer. They got a B+, which is a pretty good grade. I've heard about students writing entire essays on their phones and then printing them wirelessly. So they'll send them straight to the printer and bypass the computer altogether, which I can't imagine doing myself. College essays, and a number of teachers will, in class, have quizzes or polls that their students from their desks, from their phones, can fill out, submit, and get feedback on right there.
It sounds great, but Heidi, you must still face some barriers. I'm sure parents, when they see their kids spending even more time on their phones, might not be so happy about it.
I sometimes get some parent, pushback. Why is my kid always on the computer?
Right.
But, households usually have one computer. And as every student's getting more homework online, they're using their phone more than they're using the house computer.
Right.
And so, and that's how it's their world. They're always logged on.
Isn't there opportunity, though, for students to take advantage of the situation if they have their phones, to text their friends or maybe even cheat?
Yes.
Or is that not?
No, you're right. That's always a possibility. But, a good quote that Jamie Cassip from Google always said is, information is Googleable.
Right.
So we need to be able to have them apply the information. You can Google anything that you want them, any basic information. They need to learn how to use that information. So I actually give all my tests online, because if they can Google the answer, it shouldn't have been a test question.
Very good point. So, Charlie, how are computer software companies, how are they responding to all of this?
So cannibalism is an issue here. What we've heard a lot in the sort of educational tech space is that tablets are the big thing. I'm sure a lot of parents have thought about educational tablets and programs, but really what we're seeing here is students flocking to phones. And so I think a lot of companies are being careful not to, push the tablet out of the way. A lot of these tablets have received a lot of attention, and a lot of the apps that students are using are available on tablets and on phones and computers as well. So the really big players here have been Google, of course, course. And then Microsoft as well. Microsoft PowerPoint, Microsoft Word, and the Office Suite is available. And a number of students have been using some combination of these. Slides.com is also fairly popular with a number of students.
So Heidi and Charlie, I guess this is a question for both of you. How do you approach the situation then when there are some students who don't have smartphones? Because not everyone has a smartphone.
That's a great question. I work in a very fortunate district where the majority of the kids have multiple phones, computers, but if there is that person that doesn't, they either use my computer, they use my phone, or I make sure that everyone in the class has a device to use for that appropriate assignment.
Right.
Because I'll give review quizzes. There's Socrative.com is a great website that any teacher can use to, like Charlie said earlier, do a quiz in class and get immediate feedback.
Right.
I can watch on my screen who is on what question, whether they got it right or wrong. So it's this whole everything's immediate. There's no patience to, so it's nice. I get formative assessment literally in 2 minutes.
Yes,
in my
sounds
class.
like a fantastic use of technology.
Yes.
But Charlie, isn't it true before this can be widely adopted, there needs to be a sense that everyone in the class has a smartphone or a tablet or some sort of electronic device?
That's right. I spoke with a teacher in California who works in a district where there is a large number of low-income students. And what he said is that surprisingly many do. So he sees about 90% of even low-income students, or 90% of the entire population, has a smartphone. And when that doesn't happen, there will often be, say, a loaner laptop or some other device, or students will sometimes share the devices as well. But you're right that I think we can all remember back to our days in school, and sharing was never as fun as having your own.
That's right. And who doesn't want a smartphone? All right. Charlie and Heidi, thank you so much for talking to us today.
Thank you.
Great to be here.